antenna, but it works okay.
The recording is on.
Oh, speaking of His Highness.
Yeah, get back to your
His
wife.
Highness.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah, hi, Rick. You need to get some radios, even if they're not hooked up, Rick, into your new risers there.
I know I'm working on it. I varnished the top shelf there today. It's painful, but it's coming.
The only thing I ever varnished was the deck of my boat.
Yeah. I got pretty good at that. I tried putting urethane on this clear urethane, and it went on nicely, but as it started to cure, it developed these white blotches that I had to sand out, and apparently it's some leveling material that they put in the urethane. So it was a bit of a mess. So I let it dry, sanded it out, and then I put some spar varnish over top of it, and it looked pretty good. So.
Yeah, your shack is too neat. Look at all of our shacks. Peter's a prime example. Look at the shack, you know.
Of what's the prime example?
No, I said you're a prime example of how a shack should be.
And what's that?
It was busy.
Oh yeah,
so much stuff. You know,
this is actually cleaned up.
It's supposed to look busy. You know.
Well, you should see the other side of the room here where the radios are. It's a construction zone.
See, look, this is how my shack looks.
Yeah, it looks great. I agree. That's the way it should look.
Well, mine's littered with op-amps.
See, that PC there just died. What a pain in the ass. I hate computers.
Yeah, you got the wrong vocation, and you're also picking the wrong hobby, because half the time you're on the computer in the hobby too.
Yeah, but this is like I like operating systems and PCs and that kind of crap. I hate PCs.
What kind of PC is it, Dave?
It's Linux. It's an old HP PC that I have.
Oh well, okay, HP hardware. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you just buy a Raspberry Pi and put it and hook it up to the screen and be done with it?
Yeah. Well, you know what? That PC was my file server. That was my. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 terabytes of data on that PC. That PC serving to the house. So I got all my movies and audiobooks and backups and everything like that, right?
Yeah, I actually, I got a proper server. I think I'm up to 11 terabytes now. So, but
yeah, a guy at work promised me a real like NAS box.
Yeah,
hardware with RAID and stuff.
I actually bought a Dell. They're not that expensive. I bought a real Dell one, and I'm running the a Docker container for my video cameras outside. So it runs the Ubiquiti video cameras and then stores all the video data and all that kind of crap. And
anyway. Fancy schmancy Docker.
No, just actually it was lazy. It was easy to set up the Docker container. I was surprised.
That's a big thing now. Hey, all this orchestration, everything's running Docker and using Kubernetes to deploy it, and it's a big thing now.
It's a whole new thing to learn. It's like, oh my god, it just never ends. Anyway, yeah, it is kind of neat because then I can.
And it's funny when I go and I do a security assessment, and I say, "Okay, tell me about your Docker security." Oh, it's a container. There is no security. And I said,
exactly.
Really? Have you been to looked at the CVEs against Docker? And it's like, let's look.
Yeah, and Docker, one of the things has to run as root, and they're bringing out a new version that it doesn't have to run root, but the version I have does. So mine's not exposed to the internet other than a couple of ports. But
well, that's a problem with these guys. They think, because it's Linux, it's safe.
Nope.
You can't get a Trojan on Linux. You can't get Oh, yes, you can.
Oh, yes, you can.
Worm,
yeah.
The internet worm. Remember the Morris worm? It was on Unix.
Yeah, that's where it started.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, my Amazon thing that I play around with, it's getting hit about every 20 seconds. And most of the top 10 IP addresses that it's getting attacked from are always China.
So you actually set up you've got an Amazon?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just for playing, like the free one that you can have for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have one just to play with. I don't do anything with it other than just mess around.
Yeah, I started to do the training to get the certification for it, to be an Amazon certified, AWS certified engineer. And I got 2 hours into the training. It's like, no, I'm not doing this. Okay, no, this is for younger folks. You know, it isn't complex, but it's more stuff you got to learn and memorize and go write an exam.
It's tedious.
It's tedious. It's not worth it. I'd rather go play with radios.
Exactly. Anyway, is it time yet? It's time. Who's driving this boat?
Mute.
Apparently, it's me. I know. Ken is not joining us tonight. I'm not sure about Hassan, and Eric is incognito. So I guess we could get started. Okay. I'll welcome everybody, and I guess the new one tonight would be Rick V3ORY from Kingston's joining us tonight. Welcome, Rick. Tonight, I thought I would show. I have 2 short videos. One's about 5 minutes, and the other one's just a couple of minutes. It was my first attempt, really, at videoing me soldering a 32-pin chip. So I thought we'd just play that and then just see where we go from there. I actually started taking interest in seeing. I think I did a presentation to this group a few weeks ago a couple months back, called "How Small Can You Go?" When I made my own breakout boards for those tips and soldered them, and then I already had a bunch of breakout boards, but and of course no chips. I don't know if you can see that clearly, but this is what I would talk about. Actually, this is the chip that I did the soldering job to. Anyway, remember that big box of chips that we had at the Homebrew, and everybody dives in and was grabbing them? Well, I inherited that box for now until then COVID hit, so I couldn't bring it back. But there was a whole ton of chips in there, and there was an Atmega 328 processor chip in there, and it would fit on this breakout board. So I'll play these videos, and then we'll go from there. Hopefully you hear the audio. I discovered, I think the audio I think works in this, comes via my speakers into the microphone, which is, I tried to get around not doing that, but it wasn't successful. Okay, we'll see what happens here. I'm assuming everybody can see that?
Yep.
Okay, hopefully you'll hear it.
Okay, today I'm going to make an attempt to solder a Atmega 328 chip onto this breakout board that I got. That was included in a bunch of other breakout boards that I had in a shipment, and I thought I might as well make use of it and see if I can do this. It's a 32-pin TQF package, and we'll start off. I've already cleaned the board, so let's start off by just tinning one pad. And now we'll just carefully place it on here, get it more or less lined up, and make sure that the pins are relatively lined up, well, not relatively, accurately lined up on the other side, adjacent side of the pin, and the others should be okay. So let's just give a little bit of heat there, and that should take care of that. Now, it just needs a little adjustment. Okay, they're off just not much. I could probably do it like that, but ooh, too much. It's still holding, that's good. Gone too much the other way. Really finicky, but you can definitely see I could probably correct it here. Let me just hold it and just give this a little bit of a reheat. Okay. Yeah, that did it. Okay. So let's go to an opposite corner. So it's slightly off center and I kept wanting to push back to where it was. So holding it down in the right position and then reheating that one pin allowed the chip to there, that looks good. Now I could try, and I don't think I'm going to bother trying to do each pin because it's just take way too long. And nothing wrong with this method. Just put the solder onto it. Don't worry about the bridges yet. Put my fingers in the way there. Looking. Let's just go down here. I should probably go this way. There we go. And I'll come about this way. There. Should be good. Now, time for the homebrewer's best friend.
Going for Aaron now.
At least right now it is.
You're going for Aaron now.
Great.
Surgery.
I like to sweep across this way to drag the solder along and promote pulling the solder along the traces and not across the traces. That looks good. Lots of solder there. Seems to be coming pretty good. Okay, there, I think. No, not really. There's a little bit more here. It's hard to tell without the magnifying glass just yet. I'm still doing this without magnifying glasses. I can look at it with my bare eyes, naked eyes. So I'm lucky in that regard that I can do this. But I'm really close to. I could put the magnifying lens over top of my glasses, and that seems to work pretty well too. But I have not done that as of yet here. If I had to do anything finer than this, I probably would have to. Well, I shouldn't say probably, I know I would. Just a couple more little bridges that I can see. I think there's one there too. Yeah, I think that's got it. It's probably the light that's upsetting this side over here that I can't really quite tell. Let's just give it another little swipe. That looks good. The other thing to look for is not just the bridges along the traces, but right in between the chips themselves. And I think that's where I might have a problem right there. But I'll have to look at it a little bit closer. So I'll pause this for now and come back.
Okay, that's one, and I'll play the other one.
Okay, I did remove one more. There was one little small bridge, and then there was just a little small bit of solder in between the pins that wasn't shorting, but it may break loose. So I've removed that off camera, and I've checked a few of the pins so far to see if there's any shorts, and so far so good. So I've got one more side to check. So just follow the trace, make sure I have the right ones. And go on here. So far so good. And walk all the way along the line. I think one more. Oh no, I'm way off. Okay, there, I finished. Good. And just make sure that things are working. Yep, that one's good. There we go. That's perfect. There we go. So no shorts. Now the question is, do I want to make my own Arduino board? I guess I could do that. The nice thing about this is it's not too bad, and I think if you had magnifying glasses, it would make it even easier, really, but it can be done without it because you're not trying to solder each individual pin, except for maybe the first one and the second one. After that, you're just laying the solder on it, and then solder braid's your best friend. And it's pretty good. After that, I took a little dental pick here, and I just kind of rubbed in between the traces a little bit after the fact, just to make sure. Clean the board with some contact cleaner or alcohol, and we're good to go. I think to go to something smaller is going to be a big challenge. I would be wanting to try it, but the problem is that the board spacing is not good enough. I was thinking of giving this one a shot as well, the bigger chip, but the chip I have that's got the number of pins is not quite the right pitch, so I can't do it. So. But I'm still pleased, though, that this worked. And like I said, I could make this into an Arduino, but well, not Arduino. I'll have to come up with a better name than that, I guess, if I do. Okay, thanks for watching.
Okay, so that was my my venture into that type of soldering there. So I guess really the next challenge I'd be kind of thinking of would be to actually etch my own board. Let's see if I can etch the finer traces as well. And I've already started off doing that. So I think the next step would be to do that. Because if I did make, say, actually when you go forward with a project, it'd be nice. So far, we've been taking nanos and megas and things like that. And we've been, taking that board and making a socket for it. Well, it might be kind of nice if you just, you can save a lot of space if you could just put the chip on there and a couple of associated components, right? So anyway, that's that. Anybody else attempted anything like that to solder themselves?
Yeah, I did actually.
Where are you? Oh, there you are.
Okay, so I tried that RF board, and I used solder paste, and I used a hot air gun, and man, having a good soldering iron makes such a big difference. The last time, I mean, my old gun, I was trying to use it, and it's torture trying to get it to work. With this, it's almost impossible not to get it right. You just heat it up just the right amount, and the solder flows into place, and the components line themselves up.
Well, how did you? So when you used the hot air gun, it didn't blow the chip across the board or anything. The solder paste held onto it, okay?
Yep. Well, actually, okay. So that's the first time I did it. It lined up perfectly. I used just the right amount of paste with a toothpick, and just placed it on there, and it's just slowly melted the solder. The chip lines up, and it's fine. Second time I did it, I think it was a bit trickier. The chips were knocking all over the place. I tried to do 3 or 4 at a time instead of just one. So that was a bit harder. But the principle is the same, I think. I'm
curious because, especially if it was on that, like I say, on the other side of the board, if you're just going to do something, like that kind of a pitch there, that would be, I'm just trying to imagine with a toothpick and laying some solder paste on there. That would be, I don't think I'd be bothered.
That's the tricky part. You have to put just the right amount of solder, otherwise it just goes all messy. So that's the real trick then.
Without that'd be interesting to try that. Well, maybe one day. Dave, you had a comment?
Yep, if I could get to the mute. Yeah, it was kind of interesting, Peter, what you did there, because I do something else, but I think your approach is a lot better. How you kind of get one pin and you sort of pivoted it, because I always put it down and I always try and get it perfect. But I like what you did where you soldered a pin and you're able to kind of use that to fix the position and adjust it. I never thought about doing that, but I think that's a good way of doing this. Otherwise, because I'm exaggerating, you spend hours trying to get it completely lined up perfectly.
I kind of fell into that because before I used to spend time, I probably did it like you. You'd spend hours trying to get the two sides correct. If you got 2 sides correct, then the other 2 will be fine. But this time, I didn't quite have it, but I was able to hold it in place and then come back and reheat pin 1, and that took the strain off of the pin, and it was lined up perfect. So it worked out well. But
even still, like you could see that even with it soldered, you could put your finger on it and just poke it a little bit, put some tension, and you could see the other side lined up.
Yes. Yeah, it worked well. Dwayne, you had a comment? You're still muted.
Yeah, this is about using solder paste. One thing that I found that works real well to keep parts from blowing all over the place is put the thing up and start heating the board from the back side, and the solder paste will start melting, and this flux will go in there and it'll grab it, and you can get it, and it'll stay in position. Then bring it up and put it on and apply the heat to the top side. It helps, then the board is heated up and you get a real quick alignment.
Oh, okay.
And one thing most people do is they use way too much solder paste. If you ever go take a look and see how much actual solder paste is put on, if you're using a template, I mean, it's a layer about the thickness of the aluminum in a beer can.
Yes. Actually, I was reading the other day where somebody was homebrewing his own masks, and I thought, how the heck is he doing that? But anyway, I think he had a laser etcher or something like that was doing it. But even still, Nathan, you got a comment?
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who actually was doing some surface mount, and so he told me that the PCB is covered with this epoxy layer that's really resilient, and that's the only part that isn't covered are the solder pads. And so that's the whole trick behind solder paste. I mean, when you melt it, the solder has nowhere to flow except in these little wells which are around the metal pieces. And he said, I asked him, what happens if I scratch that off? And he said, you can't, because he tried to get it off because he built a board wrong and it was incorrect. He had to use chemicals, etchants, whatever, files. It was impossible to get that stuff off.
Okay.
So that's something.
I know I stumbled across Dave alluded to, there's no such thing, shouldn't have a clean shack, but I was doing a little bit of cleanup and I came across some parts I assembled for building my own solder oven. I got all the components but the oven itself. But so it's kind of another thing that got me going on this kick of seeing what I can do by hand. Dave, comment?
Yeah, Dwayne, how did you heat the bottom of the board?
I just got one of these hot air rework stations. I put the thing up on a little PCB vise and heat the board from the bottom.
Okay, because I've seen people using those. There's videos of people using those, coffee cup warmer pads. But I don't know if that gets hot enough to melt the paste.
Yeah, I don't think it will. It works real. Just hold the board up, heat it from the bottom like there. You'll see the solder paste start to liquefy, and do your final positioning, and then bring the hot air gun over to the top and melt solder on where you want it.
It'd be something to try. I mean, I got a hot air gun. Well, I call it that. I think it used to be a paint stripper, but I suppose one could use that. But I guess if I got some solder paste, I could always try it and just see how it would work out. It would make some things simpler, that's for sure. Good. Any other comments?
Yeah. Peter,
Yeah, Michael.
did you, can you hear me? I guess you can hear me.
Yeah.
Did you put Flux on first before you started soldering?
No,
You just relied on the solder in the...
No, all I did was clean it with some alcohol, give it a little bit of a rub, and just relied on the rosin that's in the solder itself.
Because we used one...
They've put the rosin on and they swear by it, but since I don't have any, that's the way I went. Is that what you use? You put rosin down first?
We made some SDR radio receivers a few years ago, and I forget. I think we probably did, but we used the reflow station, like the heat gun, to put. I had to take some stuff off the boards, and I used the heat gun to take it off, and use the same thing to put it back. But I guess the parts were large enough; they didn't blow away.
Mm-hmm. Actually, when I think of it, just a reminder. If somebody is contemplating doing some soldering like this and wants to use a solder oven, the Homebrew group does have a solder oven. Now that Frank has moved out of town, I think Ken may have the the solder oven right now, but I'm not sure. So there is one available if one's so inclined. We haven't done a project in a long, long time where we required it. I think we only did maybe one or two, but it'd be nice to get some use out of it. Okay, any other comments? Okay, well, like a bit of an open topic tonight. So if anybody has anything they want to talk about, or just raise your hand. Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, okay. Anyway, no, I was looking at your op-amp comments this week about, you know, but there was something on Hackaday I came across. I don't know if you saw this. It was, I think it was Friday or something, or Sunday or whatever. But I'll just show you here on my screen for a minute here. Application, this one. So you've got that. So somebody at Hackaday made a discrete op-amp out of transistors.
Neat.
And I thought that was kind of cool. And you can see they've got the input differential pair there. They bonded them together to keep them the same temperature. And then they've got some pots to kind of trim things out because they don't have a laser trimmer. That's the circuit. So it's very straightforward. You know, differential input pair, and then another amplifier there, and then a push-pull output with some trimming. So just if you want to understand op-amps, I thought, you know, that's actually a pretty cool little project that you could build, and you can go look through the whole circuit, right?
What? You're
Where
right.
is that, Peter? Where is that?
Hang on. I'll put the URL in the chat on the side here. Hang on.
Okay.
So now I have to.
Yeah, it's on the chat. Yeah. So.
You know, I can't make them out of 3904s or 6s.
I don't know what they used actually. Oh no, they're saying 2SC 1815s, whatever they are. I don't know if there's some generic NPN amplifier, but anyway, I thought that was kind of neat. I thought of you when I saw that.
You know, I mean, sometimes this stuff is tough enough as it is, as you're going through things, but without making stupid mistakes, which I made quite a few of them. And then when you change gears partway through, you kind of forget. Well, I forget certain things that I've done, and I kind of gloss over it. And then after making sure I've gone as far as I can before I post something silly, I post it, and then probably within about a half an hour or so, if I realize, oops. But you know what? It's all part of the fun and the learning. And that would be interesting to make a discrete op-amp. That'd be a pretty cool project to try.
Even just to simulate it in LT Spice and see, you know, I mean, it's an op-amp, right? It's a basic one, but it's still an op-amp. I'm sure it doesn't have the gain or bandwidth that the, you know, laser trimmed commercial ones do, but for getting the concepts across.
Now, what was interesting in it as I was doing this, I was using, I know Dave mentioned use Spice, and actually I was. The problem I was having was Spice wasn't, while it was tending to give me hints of directions to go, it really was not very accurate. And I thought, gee, I've come across something where Spice really isn't working well here, and it should. So once reading a couple more replies from, well, basically I think it was Kelly and Dave gave me a couple of good hints there where I was going wrong. And I looked at it, and sure enough, and I corrected it. Now all of a sudden, my circuit was agreeing with Spice. So, Real World and LT Spice Part 3 works. So anyway, we haven't quite finished it. The next problem I'm looking right now is for some reason, the second input on the Nano is reading almost, even though it's open. It's also I guess there must be some leakage between pins. I don't know.
Reading analog inputs on the Arduino.
Yeah.
You got to watch how fast you read them because it's multiplexing them, and if you're not using them, tie them to ground. Okay. If you want accurate readings, tie the unused ones to common, and don't read it too fast.
Right. But that's what I've noticed there, and but anyway, it's we'll try that. But maybe I might take you up on that. That's not a bad idea. A discrete op-amp. But kind of remind, because remember Simon has a discrete 555 timer. Oh,
right. Yeah, he had that little board, right?
Yeah, but I don't like the price he paid for it, bro.
Yeah, this is something you could build from whatever you got sitting around, I think.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So does anybody else got some projects on the bench?
Yeah, I got some.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this. This is the QCX.
Oh, yeah.
It's the QCX receiver, the QCX transceiver in the box. It only took me a year and 4 months to put it in the box. It takes a while. And the other thing I'm doing, when I was a teenager, I had a KT135, Lafayette KT135 receiver, shortwave receiver. And so one of the guys in the club, we were over helping him a couple of years ago put up an antenna, and Clyde mentioned he had one of these that he got at a garage sale. So I went and looked at an ood and ahh'd over it, and he brought it over to me and gave it to me a couple of days later. So this is what it looks like on the bottom. Looks to be not a bad job in terms of soldering it. It works, it hums though, so I'm going to replace the filter capacitor, which is on the bottom, and also put in a 3-wire ground. And Wayne and I talked about this for a long time ago. The power supply is a tube, of course, of 35W4, and so that's no problem. I can put the line on one side and the neutral on the other. And the thing is, what do you do with the 3-wire, the third ground? And I figure I can just ground it to the chassis. And in the schematic, there's a 0.01 microfarad, looks like, capacitor to ground on the connecting the bottom, the neutral of the filter line to the chassis. So I figure I can just ground put the safety ground connected directly to the chassis. Anybody got any comments about that? Any reason not to do that?
I don't think so. It's not like those AC/DC receivers where the chassis would be hot.
That's right. And there's a whole web page thing on the KT135 that talks about the old designs and everything else, and they talk about replacing the unpolarized 2-conductor cable, the power line, with a polarized one, and they tell you, of course, how to do that. But I'm going to actually use a ground as well. The other on that web page is kind of funny. At the end, there's the last page where they claim that and they show pictures of the Apollo 11 command module and the space center with these radios as an integral part of the thing. And they go a long spiel about the reason that Armstrong got to fly is because Edwin Armstrong designed the first radios and all that stuff. And anyway, so that's my projects to do. And then later on, I have a Yaesu linear here that I've never used, but I want to put it on a Variac to bring the voltage up, just to make sure the filters are okay.
Mm.
Anyway, that's what I've been up to.
Okay, so you've been busy as well. Actually, you reminded me of something. When you were showing me your QCX here in Kingston, a few of us, we get most we get together pretty much every Monday night, and most of the time we have on-air events. And we discussed one this time. We're going to do a homebrew rig CW session on 40 meters on April 5th. So it just occurred to me when you put your QCX up there, maybe clear that on your calendars, and maybe some NIVA stuff will be working, although low power, you never know. But anyway, keep it in mind if you want to try something. We'll be doing some homebrew transceivers on April 5th on 40 meters.
Oh, cool.
So that might be interesting. So get your Pixie kits that you haven't built yet built.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody else got stuff on the bench? I see Rick's bench is pretty naked still, but Dave, go ahead. You're muted.
I get nailed on that every time. I got 3 things to talk about.
Maybe you should use Vox.
Let me just grab my contraption. So I've been walking around my backyard with this. My neighbors, all I need is a white hood on my head. My neighbors would probably call the cops on me or they'll be leaving. Actually, it's funny. I do have my neighbor at the back. Their house went up for sale 2 days ago. Anyway, I've been playing around with making measurements of near field for my antenna, and I've been playing around with a couple of designs here. Okay, and I've got a presentation that I'll give on this, but I had a question about that because one of the designs here has got a toroid. Okay, and that toroid is supposed to be a 1-to-1 balun. Okay, so it's 12 bifilar turns. Okay, what's the impedance? If it's 1-to-1, it means there's no impedance transformation, right?
Yeah.
It depends how you connect it, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know. It says,
Oh, wait a minute. You said bifilers. There's 2 windings, right?
yeah, it just, the wires are twisted together and you put 12 turns.
It'd be the same impedance both in and out.
Well, okay, but I saw a Charlie Morris video. I'll just stumble across I was watching it a couple of nights ago, and he did the same thing, 10 turns, and he was using it to transform impedances.
Yeah, if you connect the bottom of one to the top of the other, that gets you.
Oh, so it's like a voltage divider.
Well,
That's how it works. Yeah, it's if you connect, it's the same thing as the LBS project uses those.
yeah.
I remember winding those. Basically, you take the 2 windings and you connect the bottom of one to the top of the other, and that gets you 4-to-1 impedance ratio. I think it is one side to the other.
Because I'm thinking, okay, why would he put a 1-to-1 balun here? Because that antenna is not 50 ohms.
Well, that's what I suspect that's what they're doing, is transforming it down to.
No, but it's not. But it's not doing that where you twist it. You're connecting the output of one to the other. You're not doing that. You're just taking it and.
Oh, okay. It's a 1-to-1 then. It's not transforming any impedance at all.
No.
So why would you be doing that on a receive antenna?
Don't know.
Yeah,
Read that really thick book of yours and start reading.
yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of scratching my head, going, why would you do something like that on a receive antenna? I could see maybe doing an impedance transformation because that antenna certainly is not 50 ohms, and so you need to transform the feed point of that antenna to 50 ohms.
Well, that's what that
Makes sense.
that's what that toroid would do if you wound it properly.
Yeah, that's
on the assumption that it's 200 on the crucifix thing.
yeah, but that the notes the guy did and his measurements are bang on, and my measurements. Oh well, I won't spoil it. You'll see in my presentation, but it works. It looks like it's working.
Well, you got 2 more weeks, Dave, to get the answer.
Yeah, so I don't know.
You
Okay,
asked why he uses a 1-to-1 balun?
yeah,
Oh, because a balun also converts balanced to unbalanced. So basically, your coax has a ground, and the signal. You got a ground which doesn't vary in voltage, and then you've got this inner conductor which
okay,
is just swinging. When you put it through a balun, you've got 2 wires coming out. Each one is swinging.
right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense now. See, okay, putting in that's balun. Duh.
Balanced to unbalanced.
Yeah. So because it says so 1-to-1 balun, so that's what it's doing. Okay, that makes sense.
So you connect the wires on the cross thing to one side, and the other side has your coax.
Right.
One side of which is the shield, and one side is the inner conductor.
Right. So Hassan's, I think he's bang on, because one side, both wires are, that's got a signal, and then on the other one, it's only one wire that's got a signal.
Yeah, the coax is a signal on the center conductor only. Maybe that's
Yeah.
why, yeah. That makes sense.
So that makes sense, right?
No, you don't have to read that book.
Okay, one problem solved. Okay, next question. When you're matching impedances with a toroid, so let's just say you're matching 1500 ohms to 50 ohms. I'm just picking numbers. Okay, you do the impedance transformation, you know, the windings, and you do all that math. You come up with a turns ratio. Now, if you model it in LT Spice, it comes out, the output is 30 dB below the input. But I always thought by matching, you get half. You should get half of the signal. Because if you have like 50 ohms and 50 ohms, it's a voltage divider, and right in the middle, you get half the voltage. If it's matched, right? So at the receiver, at the target, you got a source impedance and you got a load impedance. At the load impedance, it's going to be half the voltage. Now, if I do that with the transformer, that's 6 dB current, voltage. If you look at voltage, 6 dB is half the voltage, right? So if you model in Spice, you got a 50 ohm, and you put a signal through it, and you measure that point, it comes out 6 dB. Beautiful, works. But you do that with a transformer, it comes out 30 dB.
Because you don't have 50 ohms on both sides. Your current is higher on the low impedance side, so your power is not necessarily changed. You know what I'm saying?
So so if I was to model a 1500 ohm and a 50 ohm, right, and I measured the voltage DC, I'm just doing DC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm doing AC, but I've got a 1500 ohm source, 50 ohm load, and I measure the response there, it's going to be 30 dB. It's a voltage divider.
You're measuring voltage with on LT Spice.
Right.
Measuring the current on both sides. So on the 1500 ohm side, you've got a small current, and on the 50 ohm side, you've got a large current, and the ratio is the same as the voltages.
Okay, so it's a power transfer. You got to look at the power, not the voltage.
Right.
I guess power in equals power out.
Right.
So, yeah.
Not actually changing any, except for losses in the transformer.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay, I'll play around with that. That was my question. I was playing around with transformers in LT Spice, and I was getting this, and I remember figuring out what it was. This was about 2 years ago when Peter, when we were doing the D612, I'd figured out why it was that way, and for the life of me, I never wrote it down. I was scratching my head, going, "Why the hell has this happened again?"
I've made a concerted effort to document everything I'm doing since Kevin had his little presentation there a couple months ago on documentation. So I'm probably spending almost as much time on Word as I am on the bench, mainly because you can copy and paste and find all kinds of information, and you can easily put into a document. If you were handwriting everything, you would be a quick scribble of something, and that would be the end of it.
Yeah.
Now you can do all kinds of things. Wayne, you had a comment. You raised your hand earlier.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just mention the project I had been working on. I'm making I've made a radio. I'll probably rebuild it very soon. It's a shortwave receiver. And why it's worth discussing, I guess, is because it's the underlying chip is the MK484, which I think everybody must be familiar with. It's the descendant of the ZN414, which are perhaps the oldest single chip AM radio that ever existed. And what I'm did with it is a very common design because it's so old. There's plenty of template designs out there to borrow from. So I made a superhead, and the superhead receiver is using the PARC BFO as the yellow, which I thought was kind of cool. So I made that a little while ago. It's not actually a very good radio, but it's I can get shortwave stations from it. So maybe I'll show it. I'll do a dog and pony at some point. It's actually sitting in front of me. I can't actually use it in front of the computer because the monitor produces too much interference unless I'm kind of lucky in what station I'm tuning into. But what I had been doing was using my software-defined radio software to spot the stations I should go look at. And my gear was in my test room, so I'd run over and bang it in and see if I could hear it. So that's it.
That's cool. It's one thing we haven't taken on yet.
Right? That's what it looks like.
Raise it up a little bit higher?
Yeah, I can.
Or can you?
Actually, what I can do is just point my monitor down. You don't have to see my face, right? That's what it is. So there's this mess in the middle is the rig. There's a NE612 mixer here. The one chip I see is here, and their power supply is for it here. That's a 3M86 standard audio amplifier plug. And this is a gain control, because this is what I was really experimenting with is, can you adjust the gain? Does it make any sense to do that? What does it sound like when you do? And this is a BFO that I stuck on the end of it to, I can get Morse code and very loud SSB stations, Americans with 2K amplifiers. I didn't need to have a BFO board, of course, because it's the PARC signal generator's got 3 outputs, but I never built one before, so I just thought I'd do it. Try to, but yeah, I'm very excited about it. It's almost the simplest radio you could possibly build, but when I turned it on and I got the first station, that was just a real gas for me.
It's a good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's good. And you've done that in Manhattan style.
Yeah, I guess that's what it's called.
Have you tried etching boards at all yet, Wayne?
Have I tried which?
Have you tried any etching of your own boards?
I haven't done any etching for years. I did the iron-on transfer method for a project. I actually prefer the copper pad hand style the most. I've tried using the Charlie Morris barrel board type thing, but I'm finding I'm always lifting up the traces or doing something horrible to it. So this is convenient because I can get as big as I feel like.
Yeah, I haven't done it. Manhattan's a quicker one, and it's quick and easy. You can do one. But I haven't done one for a long time. Once I started etching boards, and I seem to have gotten that down to a bit of a fine art for the most part. I've just continued on doing that instead of bothering with Manhattan. But,
one of the things that I tried was I haven't done etching at all, and I sort of don't want to get into it if I can avoid it. But Charlie Morris has this way of doing circuits where he takes a board that's basically a perf board with the rows of conductors on it, and he basically uses that, and he uses one side as the plus voltage, the other side is the ground, and he just wires it all that way, and that turns out to be quite good. I like that rather than using the me pads, which we did with the LBS project. If I had the LBS to do over, I think I would do it with the Charlie Morris way instead.
Actually, I went one step further with that. On one of the circuits I did, I etched the me pads right into this. So my LBS had a combination of Manhattan and a me pad etched into it, and also etched circuit board. So there was 3 styles of construction in there.
I have to say I never finished the LBS, at least not yet. I still got a couple of boards to go.
I actually I showed it to you the other night. I'll show it to you in a sec here. But I finished it. I took it out on field day over on Wolf Island about 5 years ago, I guess it was. I made one or two contacts, I think, on it, and that was it. So here's the state of it today. It truly was on a breadboard, and now it's all taken apart for various reasons. Filter boards went off because I was trying something else, and another circuit went off for another thing. I always thought I'd get it back together again, but looking at it now, it's beyond repair.
The other thing, for what it's worth, when I was in this is going back when I was a teenager, my dad bought me this book, the boys' second book of radio and electronics.
Oh yeah.
And so I built a crystal radio from it. That you can see it, just on a piece of board and whatnot. So I've been looking at this book for years and years and years, and finally one day I said, "How was I going to spend $100 and buy it?" So I did.
Wow.
So $100 for it, but at least I got it. And I built a crystal radio, and I built a single transistor amplifier out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo that one day, just to try it. Yeah. Anyway, the other thing with this KT135 thing, I guess I'm going to connect it to my R7 antenna and see if it works when I eventually get it set up, provided I don't electrocute myself first. Anyway.
Well, when you plug in your rewired receiver there, just stand back.
Yes, exactly.
You said something.
Touch the board, touch the base very quickly.
Just a quick question. Does anybody here still have their first kit they ever built? I do. When I was 16 years old, I built a Heathkit VTVM bench style, and I still have it today. It's wired up. I don't know if you can actually see it or not in the... Yeah, you can. It's... There it is right there.
Neat. Well, I guess you can say this KT135 is something I built, the very first thing I ever built, but this is not my own one. This is somebody else's. Almost the same.
Hassan, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one of the books I read as a kid called Making a Transistor Radio. It was this Ladybird book, and it talked about how to build a single transistor regenerative receiver. So about a few months ago, I just realized that the author of that book was George Dobbs, who recently died. And I'm kicking myself because I would have loved to have actually just, emailed him or something and just asked him a couple of things about that design. But yeah, one more on my list of regrets.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised on the GQRP group that somebody would know how and why, the hows and whys of it.
I'll check it out. GQRP?
Yeah, the GQRP. They're on Groups.io.
Okay, we'll check them out.
Use them to start. Yeah. So who else has been busy? Al. Good evening.
Hi, I just wanted to comment a couple of things. Michael, that book, the Alfred P. Morgan series. My golly, I used to go to the library at high school, or actually it was middle school, and read those. I was able actually to get a scanned copy of all 4 volumes. So
really,
the only problem is anytime you want to do a transistor circuit there, they all use a CK722 transistor, which are pretty rare item. I'm not sure what you would substitute with, because when you look at those circuits, there's really no biasing on the circuits. They just put it in, put a battery on it, and it worked. So anyhow, that brings back a lot of good memories. Not a lot going on. Life has been busy. I did manage to finish my little breakout board for my my vacuum tube. So that's my my breakout kit for my vacuum tube. It's a little bit of a PCB board. So trying to characterize this this tube for low 12-volt operation. So
nice.
Set that up a little while ago, and then I started to realize, I don't have enough voltmeters, and I don't have enough voltmeters that are sensitive enough. It seems just about any digital voltmeter will have a 20 or 50 microamp, and then it jumps right up to 2 or 20. And this thing's operating probably 1 or 2 or 300 microamps. So I've got to figure out how to probably put a shutter bridge on the multimeter to be able to measure this stuff. But anyhow, it's working. That's about all. I've been too busy with work. I'm a little bit of a deviation right now. I'm doing more mechanical work. I'm sketching up and getting ready to machine a CW straight key. Why? Because I can. I saw a couple of nice pictures on the internet, and I got inspired. So I'm gonna make myself up a little brass key. What do you say, Dave?
Work.
Oh, come on.
Well, you know what? Maybe you have that straight key ready for April 5th.
Well, I have a novice special I could put on the air,
Yeah.
which is basically a tune-a-tin, 2-tube 4080 transmitter. That's actually what got me into ham radio. When I was a young teenager, I bought a copy of the 1971 handbook. And I didn't know what I was looking at, but I flipped through that thing back and forth and back and forth, and I still have it to this day. And, about 5 years ago, I was flipping through it and realized that I actually had 3/4 of the parts in my junk box. So I pieced it together, and by golly, it works. So maybe I'll try to put it on the air in April.
Oh yeah. You know, when you mentioned the handbook, there was my first. This isn't the actual one, but I found it at a Handfest. But this was the first handbook I ever owned when I was 16 then. So I thought I had to buy that one for nostalgia. And I see there, Kevin. And I'm just going to show you something very quickly. Going back to my op-amp stuff the past week, and different things are going around here. Here's what one of the local guys here sent me to help me out with my op-amp circuits. Let me just see here. I have to share the screen first. I'm sure everybody will remember these series of books. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, I remember those.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The Native Engineer notebooks. This one's of op-amp and IC circuits. These ones came from Radio Shack. And I happen to have about three of them down there too. So anyway, a little bit of nostalgic there. Kevin, you had a comment.
Yeah, Al, I just wanted to ask, you said you're going to machine a key. So do you have like one of those home CNC routers or something, or how are you making your key?
I have basically a full conventional metalworking shop. So
okay. Never mind the desktop router then.
I find the CNC is good for very difficult curves and patterns. But most of my work is one-off maintenance, repair, antenna works. By the time you try to put that into a CNC, program it, test the program, proof it, finally do it, it's not a good use of my time.
So what, do you have a little vertical boring mill or something and a lathe or something like that? Is that?
Yeah, milling machine and a metal lathe and all the other things go with it.
So
Nice.
can you mill your own circuit boards?
You could. You probably want to do that with CNC. I've been diving into the what was it? The photosensitive dry transfer film technique, and it actually works reasonably well. You get your artwork, you laminate it onto a board, and then expose a negative with some UV light. And
well, I think the Gord Kennedy he hasn't been around for a while, but he was doing the circuit boards with the photosensitive, and he was getting excellent results, much better results than I could ever get by doing the heat transfer. And But I never went that route because I was too cheap to go and spend the extra money on the photosensitive boards.
I did that years ago, and it was expensive. It was good. This new technique is you buy the peel and stick photosensitive film. You just like MacTac, put it on the copper board. It's not quite as good, but it's certainly a lot cheaper and a lot. I think the only problem I had was getting this film to laminate to the board without entrapping any bubbles between the copper and the film. So the first few times I had all sorts of bubbles included. But when I got the process done, I was using
and I was just going to show up.
Recording is on.
I couldn't find it. I know it's around here somewhere, but when you look for something, you can't find it. Okay, I don't know if somebody else had their hand raised. I think there was, but I've forgotten who it was. Did somebody else have their hand raised? Dave. Should have known. Dave.
Yeah, speaking of books, here's this book I refer to all the time. This book, I bought this. It's 1988, but 86, 88, I bought this book, and I've had it. It sat on my shelf for years, and it just, within the past like 10 years, I've been using it. It's all op-amp circuits. The whole book, it's all got all kinds of different layout of op-amps, instrumentation amps, filters, integrators, differentiators. It's actually pretty good. And here's a book that's going to be
Port Hope, Dave.
What's that?
Meet me at the truck stop in Port Hope and lend it to me.
Yeah. Here's a book that's going to bring back memories.
Circuit Seller. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Remember the magazine, Byte magazine? I think it was called Byte. And there was an article he used to write there.
Actually, Byte magazine. Wasn't that magazine started by Wayne Green?
I don't know, but there was a article in the magazine. It was a computer magazine, and in there, this guy, he would write a little electronics article where he would take a computer and he'd give you a little circuit to go and build, and it'd be like an interface to an acoustic modem, or blinking lights through your parallel port and stuff like that. It was really cool gadgets. And I found this. This book came out in 1979. I didn't buy it till years and years and years later, but I just saw it at some place that was on sale, and I thought, oh, I got to get that. But look at the vintage computers in the back there.
Yeah.
Look at those computers in the back, and look at the beard in the guy, like right out of the 70s.
Al, you got a comment?
I was just going to mention, I ordered up a copy of the 6-volume set of the AR handbook. And I was quite impressed. It seems to have been completely rewritten with the things that I understand in many ways, certainly more relevant. Part I like is you can read these volumes in bed or in the library without nodding off and having the book give you a concussion. So if you want a book that you can actually take with you, read in your easy chair, I've read more of that handbook than I have in years because it's nice and light now.
Actually, I was planning on buying it, but I was going to wait I was going to go and buy it at Dayton, but we all know what happened there because I don't want to pay the shipping. But yeah, Hassan, you got a comment?
Yeah, I thought I'd ask you guys for some tips on something I'm building. I'll just turn the camera on. I can't remember if I presented it before, but this is a linear power supply built from a kit. I soldered it all together. I've already built one of these before, and it took a while. This one came together in like 15 minutes. So I was going to put it inside this case, and I was going to have these analog dials on the front. But I'm trying to figure out what type of switches to use and how to lay it out. And should I just drill holes in this metal case, or what should I do there? Like, I was only thinking let me
I
suggest.
missed something there, Hassan.
What's that?
I missed a couple of words what you said there.
I was wondering. I was going to drill holes in here for the voltage and current meters.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put a big switch there or something. But I wanted to know if people have any suggestions on how to actually make this.
Do you have a Dremel tool?
Yeah, I've got a Dremel tool.
Oh, they come with the little small, maybe quarter-sized wheels, little cutting wheels, and you can lay out, like if it's your meter, you'd lay out so the rectangle or square for the meter, and then you'd use the Dremel kit to cut along the lines.
Actually, these things I think might take I think they have a round back, so I might be able to use. I was wondering if I could use a hole saw.
Yeah, maybe a hole saw. A hole saw usually is for wood, though, isn't it? You might get a metal
saws. Yeah.
Or if you have access to a Greenlee punch.
Yeah.
They used to use those for doing tubes in chassis. That's what you used apparently. I never used it that way, but I did buy a Greenlee punch to do something else, to build an antenna switch. But you can buy the individual sizes, but that might be overkill for what you're doing.
Now, just remember, if you're buying Greenlee punches, they rate them in conduit sizes, which is not real world sizes. So be careful there. Like if you grab the 1/2-inch Greenlee punch and punch out a hole, it's not a 1/2 inch; it's 7/8.
Was that right?
Yeah. It's MPT's thread sizes.
Well, electricians call it conduit sizes, Kevin.
Okay, yes, all right.
And Dave's, if you got one that's big enough and you got what do you call those bits? Oh, step bits.
Yeah, step drills.
Yeah. Okay.
There's also a nibbler. You cut a little hole, and you could use this. It's got, I don't know if you could see it. It's got a little. It's like a little saw there, a little cutter. It nibbles, and you could use this if you got a little hole. You put this inside the hole, and you could nibble it, and you could make a square hole.
Okay.
I use this all the time.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys.
And this is a cool bit. I use this as well too. The only problem with using this bit is once you put a little starter hole and you use this, but it makes the hole, just the outside of the hole, it's very rough.
So you have to file it down after.
Yeah, it's very rough. You got to take a little bit of sandpaper and smoothen it out. But this thing is great because you don't have to have the exact bit.
Oh yeah.
Right, because it's tapered. See how it's tapered? So you put it in and you just keep,
Yeah, I've got a couple sizes. Yeah, they work well. Al, you have a comment?
Yeah, those step drills. One other positive thing is they're self-piloting, which means as you're going through sheet metal, it's not going to suddenly grab your work, pull it up off, and have your work spinning around the drill press or the electric drill and causing a hazard.
I know someone that got really badly cut that way with a drill press.
As far as those meters go, you may have in the cardboard box it came in a drilling pattern that has the bolt holes and the diameter for the meter back as well, that you can tape to the work and center punch through and transfer the work. The other thing is if you're tooling challenged or resources, don't keep it to yourself. Ask for help. Some people happen to have a machine shop. Help you out. A meter like that is a challenging thing to cut in a piece of metal. It takes some drilling, maybe a hole saw, some careful filing. For the same reason, I usually recommend, unless you have the tooling, stay away from slide switches. They are a difficult thing to cut a rectangular hole in a project and to make it look professional. takes a lot of care. So a lot of my projects, I stick with the toggle switches because they're just a round drilled hole and they look great.
That's a good tip. Wayne, you have a comment?
For Hassan, you have a 3D printer, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Well, you might consider forming the face if it gets too difficult to cut the holes. Just make a hash of it and replace the front with a 3D printed cover that has the holes that you need in it, the exact right sizes that you're looking for.
That's a good idea.
I do that for LCD. These are cool. If I want to cut a square hole to put an LCD in a thing that just, I don't know, like a nice master cake, but you can sort of cover it over with a 3D printed thing.
Yeah, I think I might try that too. That way I can at least be sure that it'll go in properly.
So you have this finished for a show and tell next month or this month or what?
Oh boy, no promises.
I'm always looking for shorts for our meetings. Michael, go ahead.
Speaking of show and tell, I don't want to hog the thing. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh yeah.
It's a nano case, one of the Nanook cases with the foam inserts in it. I put all the homebrew projects in it. I got the signal generator. I got the SNA. I've got all the little projects I built from the PARC thing are in there.
Neat.
So I just thought I'd do it. Daniel and I did one each, and I drew it up on SketchUp to get the spacing right and everything, and it actually worked.
It looked like a bomb.
Hey, yeah.
It looked like a bomb.
Yeah, I heard you. Yeah.
I took a Pelican case, and that's what I used for my KX3, and I carved out all the foam to fit the KX3.
Yeah, I thought that was quite easy to do, actually. Easier than I thought, because it's almost half-inch squares, and you just sort of start cutting it out with an X-Acto knife to break the squares, and then you sort of put your hand in and pull the bottom layer out. It actually works quite well.
I cut it out originally for the way the KX3 came originally, and now I added an extra heat sink on the back of it, so I'll have to do some reworking there. But I haven't been doing too much traveling out and about. I actually, the last time I think I had the KX3 on the road was when Kevin, you and I went to Silent Lake.
Oh wow, that was a couple of years ago now.
Yeah, for the winter, our winter
soiree, soiree, yeah.
But yeah. Anybody else got a comment or show and tell? Oh, I know. I was going to make a comment. Dwayne, got my QRP quarterly yesterday in the mail, and I see you are got an article in there this month.
Yeah. I broke down and basically took my my blog entry on the attenuator and turned it into an article. It showed the cases. Lately, I've been going 3D printing things like that for parts, and I've printed up some little cases like this for some of the small items. And for Hassan there, as far as building something like that to put a small project in, 3D printer is worth it. It's too much trouble for me to go down to my shop and turn on the mill and do anything like that. I can just sit there, design something on the computer, transfer it over to the 3D printer sitting next to it, and turn it on at night, and in the morning my case is done.
My my eldest got for Christmas a one of those resin 3D printers. So he says, "Anything you want me to print for you, Dad?" Well, thing in a verse, here I come. Somebody had their hand up. I can't remember who it was.
Hassan, I think.
Oh, was it Hassan?
Yeah, Dwayne, that was 3D printed. That's pretty impressive. That's a huge case.
This is one of the small versions. I've got a couple other ones that I designed that are a little bit bigger. I can go up to about like 8 by 8 inch square on the Creality printer, and you know, probably unlimited by height on it. You know, making a couple of pieces like there, it's very easy to go up, like make an 8 by 8 by 4 inches tall, and you know, top and bottom, and you got a pretty good sized case to put stuff in.
Can you make the latches too?
Yeah, it's something just came right off of Thingiverse. They're pretty nice latch. They're a 2-piece latch on there. These are designed so basically you can go and put a O-ring or something in it and make a waterproof case out of it.
Oh, that's neat.
Or you can use TPU and just print it as well.
I know I was looking on the Thingiverse for. I was thinking about making my own power outlet, DC power outlets, and with the Anderson plugs. You got tons of designs on there, but I haven't quite saw the one that I actually want. Kevin.
Yeah, Dwayne, is that ABS or the other plastic that you use? What plastic did you use to make that case?
I think this one is PETG, and some of the other ones I've made are out of PLA.
PLA, that's the one I was thinking. Do you find much of a difference between them?
PLA is a little bit harder and stiffer. The PETG is semi-flexible, not as flexible as some of the real flexible filaments. But I mean, the only difference is printing temperature. I haven't gotten anything like any of the fancy nylons or polycarbonates like that.
My brother has a 3D printer, and he's made a whole bunch of stuff. So the mundane kind of thing. He made me a couple of, these. The blinds have the little plastic pulls on the bottom. He made a couple of those for me. And but his latest thing is he made the head for a clamp, a bar clamp. And apparently it's quite strong. It's pretty strong for what you wouldn't expect to be able to do that, but apparently you can.
One of my favorite things that came from a 3D printer is this. Anybody know what it's for?
It's a knob.
It's a knob, and I'll show you. SMA connector. You put it over on an SMA.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to put your hands around it. Well, there you go. Problem solved. They are fantastic.
One of my blog posts is a 3D printed torque wrench for torquing down SMA connectors, so you get a constant tension when you go and hook them up to the nano VNA. This is something I printed last night. It's a little storage case, 4 drawers for. It's going to be for holding SMT components and stuff like that.
Oh, that's a neat thing. You never have enough drawers, right? I'm still running out of space. Anyway. Okay. Any other comments or show and tells? Rick will have to do a show and tell when he gets those risers all populated with your radios, Rick.
Yeah, I'll get there eventually, I guess. I haven't done any homebrew projects in quite a while. I used to be into that kind of stuff. I built a lot of kits.
Well, you've been building antennas lately.
Yeah, I've been
the
doing
beater,
that.
the quadrifilar.
Yeah, I built. Somebody mentioned a Yaesu linear. I've got a lovely old Drake L4B, and a couple of years ago I built a QSK vacuum relay switching unit to replace the relays inside the Drake. and I used a Harbuck kit as the controller for the vacuum relays, and then I got the Harbuck soft start and power supply rebuild kit as well, and refurbished it, and it's working like a charm. I'm anxious to get it hooked up again here at the new place and get it back on the air.
Yeah, that's good.
I inherited that linear from my late uncle about 30 years ago. He had bought it brand new, and I'm proud to say he passed away. You can say about 30 years ago, and I've still got it running, and it's still got the original iMac 3500Z tubes in it. It works like a charm. Yeah, it's great.
Well,
It doesn't have the work bands, unfortunately. But
other than my VTVM, I don't think I have any vacuum tube equipment now.
yeah, I used to do a lot of tube stuff until I got my advanced in about 1985, and I figured I had to kind of get with the times and start getting into solid state. So I gave away all my tube stuff, and but I loved it. I started back in.
When I was around, I guess I would have been about 17, because I started messing around with electronics, I think, when I was about 15. Anyways, around 17, a friend of mine had all this tube stuff, and I was just getting into these transistors and all this kind of stuff, and I didn't really quite understand what was going on, but tubes I could visualize. So I gave him all my transistor stuff, and I took all his tube stuff. I was a little bit behind the curve on that one.
Yeah. I loved playing with tubes. I love the glow of the tubes, and
and it curls your hair.
it's good, good fun. I've still got I've got an old Viking Ranger here that I've been meaning to rebuild someday, but I don't know whether I'll ever get around to it.
Yeah, we
I
do.
don't have too much tube equipment left.
Okay. Any other comments, show and tells? I'll just say hello, Howard. I see you're there. There's another ham from Kingston joining us tonight. That's great to see.
Hello to everyone.
Yeah.
Hey, Howard.
Okay, everybody. Well, thanks for coming out tonight and joining us. Most interesting, and it was good to see all these little activities that everybody is up to. So thank you for that. And let's see. So in another 2 weeks, on the 17th, we'll have our regular homebrew meeting, and Dave is promising a top-notch presentation there for us, and I guess we'll look forward to that. And other than that, I guess that's all I've got for tonight. Dave, go.
Yeah, I've got actually two presentations on deck. I got one on my antenna, near field analysis on my antenna, and then I got another one. I remember we talked about cool microcontroller project.
Oh, yeah.
So I got one lined up for that. Straight short, it's like that would be perfect for our next AF mixer.
Okay.
Short little 5-minute presentation.
Okay, so I'll put you down for next month mixer for that.
Yeah, so I've got one on, it's on altimeters for rockets, building a homemade altimeter for a rocket.
Okay, so you're doing your longer one and a small short one next week, 2 weeks time?
Yeah, and then what I'll do is I'm going to have a couple, I'll probably have 3 short little microcontroller. Like it's like a Kevin's Cool Chips.
Yeah.
So cool microcontroller projects.
Okay.
So
okay.
Thing.
Okay, I'll email you with that just so I don't get mixed up with what's going on there. And Kevin, you got another cool chip ready to go?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, good.
We'll find something to talk about.
Okay. And Wayne, were you going to do more on your super het for in a couple weeks, or was this it?
Your microphone's on.
You're still muted there, Wayne.
Sorry about that. I have a presentation.
Okay, good. All right. So then next, so we got Wayne talking a little more detail with his super het next on our main meeting coming up. So we'll look forward to that. Should be a good meeting. Okay, guys. I guess that, unless anybody else has anything.
Nope.
It was nice to meet you guys.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll
Right,
see
everybody.
you, Howard and Rick. Hopefully we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
See you later.
Bye.
Yeah.
Hey, Peter,
Yeah, Dwayne.
you ever done any solder mask for your PC boards?
No. The only thing I've ever done, well, we did do a project, a club project, our buildathon, and we did have a solder mask made up for that. But I've never. You mean like homebrewing a solder mask?
Yeah, I mean, they're very easy.
The article, the guy that I was reading that did it never really explained how he actually accomplished it, and I couldn't quite understand it. How you've done that then, Dwayne?
Yeah, basically, I mean, you're using toner transfer. Basically, you get some clear mylar sheet, make your image like that. You can get the this thick UV paint that goes on there. You roll it out real thin, line your clear mask up on top of it like that. Hit it with UV for a little while. It gets nice and hard, and then when you're done, you just wash off the parts that were covered up by the mask and wipe off the uncured paint.
Okay, so let's just see if I got. So you take the clear mylar, and I think I have some of that actually, and you do a toner transfer of the image that you want, and then you do what?
Basically, you get the UV curable paint. Actually, you can go to whatever store you've got that sells a beauty supply shop that sells some of the UV fingernail polish. You can get and use that instead of the paint, or you can buy tubes of the regular UV paint or the solder mask, for like $4 or $5 for a tube. You put on there. I take a flat sheet of the mylar, and basically I just use some of the overhead projector sheets.
Yes.
And then take that, puts a couple of drops of that, spread it around, and then take something to roll it out so you get a real thin layer of it. Then lay your sheet over the top of it, your printed sheet over the top of it, and hit it with UV light for a little while.
Oh, that sounds interesting. I would have never thought of that. And years ago, I grabbed a whole bunch of those like overhead projector sheets from work because they were throwing out the the projector, and I thought I could have some use for those sheets, but I've never used them. But I think I still have them, so maybe I might give that a shot because I have been thinking more and more about that, doing that sort of thing. But that's a good thing to try.
I think I've got a couple. I think I've got a blog post on doing it on my blog.
Oh, is that right?
A couple of years ago. Another thing I haven't tried yet is making an SMD mask for putting on solder paste. I've seen some stuff on YouTube about it. Basically, it's pretty much the same thing as doing toner transfer, but you do a toner transfer. You take a beer can, cut it out so you get the real thin aluminum, sand the inside down to get rid of the sand the outside down. You get rid of any paint on it. Do a toner transfer onto it. Put it in a solution of drain cleaner, which is basically a caustic soda. It's got the little particles in there, which are basically aluminum.
Yeah.
If you dump that in there, and it's going to go and dissolve the aluminum where you don't have toner on it.
Oh, that sounds like a really good idea. That sounds like a pretty. Depending on how thick your. No, I like that idea. Give that a shot too. I guess there's always there's a homebrew solution for almost anything, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of good homebrew things like that. You know, the solder mask works real well. Using toner transfer, I've done a couple of double-sided boards that worked out quite well. Been playing around a little bit with the little CNC engraver that I've got. And the only other home brewing I'm doing is like I made up a couple of liters of wine of rum not too long ago.
Actually, I got to put a batch of beer on this week. I'm out. But no, that's no, that's good. I was going to say something and it was involving Dave, but I forgot what it was. Oh well, escapes me now. But anyway, oh well, that's good. So everything else good?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Doing not too much sitting around. He's haven't liked that, and every time I get up and do something right now, getting a little bit harder and more painful all the time, and not getting out. But that means I haven't gone out and done any antenna work, which I've been planning on doing. Yeah, I mean, middle of February. That's about the time that you do antenna work, though, right?
I did my antenna work in February. Oh, it was about 3 years ago. So and it's the first time since I've been a ham that I actually got out and did antenna work during antenna season. But no, I'm good that way. And actually, I'm not going stir crazy too. You know, I do a lot of these Jitsi meetings. You know, we have we have a get together on Monday nights with the Kingston Club, and then on Tuesdays we have there's another smaller group of hams here locally that we call it. We used to go for pub lunches every Tuesday. Well, now we hold them on Jitsi. So, and then we have a Saturday Tech Net as well. So I'm always interacting with the guys, and of course we have these 2 meetings a month with the appeal group. So I haven't really missed a beat too much with this COVID stuff, other than maybe visiting relatives or whatever. But my wife's starting to get a little bit stir crazy with the being indoors and whatnot and what have you. But so we'll have to come up with something.
Yeah. I've been hitting these 2 meetings here, and about the only other one I hit is the monthly QRP club meeting here in Atlanta. Yeah, antenna season. The first beam I had when I was 16. That was back in, it must have been like. I think I was 18 at that time. Somebody gave me a beam. All I had to do was take it off of this little tower he had up on the roof of his garage in Wisconsin over Christmas break time.
That sounds like a deal.
Yeah.
I bought a house the guy had a tower and a CB antenna on it. And we bought the house and he said, I'll take that down. And I said, no, just leave it right where it is. Because I had plans for the tower, and I took the antenna down, and the CB antenna had a great big long radials on that. So I used that material to make a 6-meter antenna dipole out of it. So and that tower I still have today. It's just TV tower, but I have an R5 vertical on that, so it's no big deal. But I've never did get around to buying a beam. I'd like to have one, but I'm happy.
Yeah, that beam was long gone. It didn't travel well with me with almost 10 years I spent in the Army in Germany and Thailand and other assorted places.
Yeah, they're a little harder to carry around, aren't they?
Yeah. Of course, I do still have a receiver that I bought when I was in Bangkok, Thailand.
Oh, good.
Yeah, an old R390.
Oh, geez. Isn't that nice? Well, I don't have any of my old stuff like that anymore. They're all long gone. I don't know whatever happened to it all, actually. I guess my dad probably tossed it when I moved out and all those kinds of things, which kind of reminds me I need to get my boys to get their crap out of here now.
I still got some stuff in the garage from my son, and see, once that was a bunch of stuff he had shipped back when he got out of the Marine Corps, and then I got some stuff that my daughter had when she got shipped back when she came back from Germany and was going someplace else. So those 2 big boxes are still sitting down in the garage someplace.
Yeah, I'm actually it's only a psychological thing for me, really. In reality, I don't want. I'm hoping this is the last house that I have to go, and all goes well. I don't have to worry about homes and stuff like that. So I won't have to worry about ultimately cleaning it all up. Anyways, those that inherit will have to do it.
Yeah, that's pretty much my feelings too. So what kind of beer are you making?
I usually make stouts. My eldest put a batch on there a little while ago. My stout's gone, and he's made a Trappist beer. So I'm starting to actually. I don't mind that. That's what I had tonight. The first point I had there tonight was a Trappist beer. For Christmas I keg my beer. I don't bottle it, and I got a double tap for my kegerator for my fridge. So, and I got a couple of, well, one of the kegs belongs to my son, so that's got his beer in it, and then I got the other one that I put mine in. So that's kind of nice. I was gonna try an IPA or something like that, but I ended up just picking up a bunch of stuff for another stout. I mean, I've made so many stouts now, and I don't really know how good it is. I just know I like it.
Yeah. I usually, when I was brewing beer, I usually made. I tried a couple other ones, but I usually went to either stouts or porters. I think the last stout that I made was a pretty heavy oatmeal raspberry stout, and that was fabulous.
I haven't done an oatmeal. Right now, I'm just doing partial mashes. I haven't done a full mash, but my son and I are talking about going into full mash this, sometime in the spring. So I ultimately that's where I was going to go. But then I started to really like the beer I was making with the partial mash. So I thought, well, why go to the extra? But my son's convinced me to try it. So I said, sure, why not? And but the ingredients I got now I decided I was going to try a milk stout. I did do one way back, and I went and reviewed my notes and said, and in my notes it said it's the best batch I've made so far. So I thought, oh, that's good. So we'll try that one. I did try some EPAs and English pale ales a couple of times, but I mean, they weren't my favorite. Like I've never brewed something I couldn't drink. It's just a question of, how well did I like it? And I didn't really like the EPAs as much, so I kind of went back. So I'm kind of looking for another beer to make. I'm just not sure which. I mean, I can't eat stouts all the time.
Yeah, I really not a fan of IPAs and stuff like that. I like the heavier, stouts, porters, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Say the last stout, a couple of times that I've tried was, taking like maybe half of the batch. I mean, I'd bottle it. I'd bottle half of it, and then take about half of it. And what I found out is I just took like a pound box of frozen raspberries, put that in there, and let that maturate in there for 3-4 days, drain out and bottle it. That and a good heavy stout is fabulous taste.
I would never thought that. Maybe I might give that a shot. I know my son would definitely like that. He likes the fruitier style beers, well, hence the Trappist. I used to joke with him that he wouldn't drink a beer unless it was carried on the back of some yak up some mountain in Tibet, where the monasteries were. But anyway, that's his kind of flavors. Were you doing all mash or partial mash or?
I had a brew shop real close, and sometimes we'd go there and do the mash with them like that. Most of the times I just used either dried or liquid malt extracts.
Yeah,
and then just go and maybe take some grain or something like that, put it in the last part for for the boiler and boil it for a little while, just to add a little bit of flavor.
Yeah, I really like the partial mash ones. It's easy. I usually grind up the grains the night before I'm brewing, so I can at least take that step out of it. That was when I went and bought the mill. That saved me so much time because when I started off, I was cracking all the grains by a rolling pin, and that took a long time. So, yeah. But
I've gone to stuff that's a little bit easier to do it right now. Like I say, the last thing I made was I got about a liter and a half of about 70 proof rum out of
Yeah, it's a little bit. What time is it here? Yeah, I think I'm gonna say it's still a little bit early for me to have my little nightcap whiskey, but but I think I'll probably go and pour myself. Oh, actually, there was another difference when I bought the with these taps. I had the taps upgraded, and what a difference! Because the original taps that I had, if you didn't pour a pint every other day, at least, it would gum up, and it was a night. Well, you'd have to take it apart and wash it out. Anyway, I upgraded the taps this time with this tower, and you can leave it for a week and it doesn't gum up at all. Makes a huge difference. A bit more money, mind you, but yeah, it's worth it. And besides, the way I look at it, I'm just spending the kids' inheritance anyway, so who cares?
Might as well.
There's not much more test equipment I need to buy now anyway.
Yeah, I got a couple of things that I'm kind of working on, but lack of ambition has gotten to take over an awful lot of stuff.
That happens. We all go on these little lulls and things, and then I get little flurries of activity down here in the bench every once in a while. And of course, the latest one has been op amps. But and that only started out as a quickie. I thought it'd be a quickie project because I wanted to read. I got a positive negative rail power supply that I traded for. And I thought, I wouldn't mind having a voltmeter on it. Maybe I'll just build an Arduino voltmeter to read negative voltages. And I thought, I could probably bang that off in a half an hour, or in an afternoon. Now it's turned out to be about 2 weeks, 3 weeks now.
Yeah. I think I sent you a link to an article on doing that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll look forward to that.
That was one I sent you, I think. A YouTube video on it.
Yeah, we saw those, and I started to review a whole bunch of videos again because I knew I was obviously missing something, and I didn't actually clue in until just a couple of days ago. And then, of course, now everything's working fine. The issue now is just more or less software related. But
if you just got an Arduino or something on there for a voltmeter, you're not hooking to anything. You can, you take a nano, you can float the whole thing, hook up the ground to your negative.
Oh, right.
Negative lead. Go through a voltage dropping resistor and stuff like that, and going up to ground as your positive.
Mm-hmm. I thought of that as well, and it's probably something I'm going to play with anyways, if for no other reason, just to do it.
Yeah, there's some little things like that, or there's some of these little 3-terminal voltmeters. I got some that I've used in different projects. They're like $3 a piece. 3-digit voltmeter like that. You get the three lead ones.
Yeah, I got one over here, and I actually thought I had 2, and I thought, you know what, I'll save myself a bunch of effort and I'll use those. But then I thought, you know what, I wanted to learn a little bit more about op amps anyways, and I wanted to play with that and keep going with it. So that's what we'll do. Although Kevin got me intrigued tonight about doing building the op amp from scratch.
Yeah.
They got a ton of parts, might as well use them up. That was the whole idea.
Yeah, I got so many parts around here. That's why I've been printing up these little cases and little things like that, just to store it. This little thing that I printed up here yesterday, it's going to be for some of the SMT parts. It's pretty small. It's like 2.5 by 4 by 4, and there's different size drawers you can print for it. This drawer is, like 10 compartment, like they're just the right size for putting in individual small parts or some service mount parts.
Yeah, I have the combination of both in there. And actually, I got things so complicated. Well, I had so much now that, and of course, it grew. I didn't start off with that much. I just kept, as my parts accumulated, I bought more drawers. If I had to do it all over again, especially with SMD, I would do something different for sure. But I was already into this, so I just kept going. But it got to a point where I couldn't find anything anymore. or it was taking me a long time. So I found a nice spreadsheet that already had inventory tracking on it. So I just adapted it for my use, and that's what I use today for virtually 90% of the time when I want to find something. I mean, some of the stuff, obviously, I know where some of it is for sure, but it's some of the other stuff that I'm not sure which drawer it's in. And so, but I use a spreadsheet to keep track of it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I got plenty of time, so I can just thumb through drawers and boxes. And
I did that a few weeks ago, and I think I was mentioning it tonight, where I found all the parts that I had gathered up for a solder oven. I just never got around to building it. But anyway.
Did you say you didn't use any flux when you did it soldering?
No, I just cleaned the board with some alcohol and give it a little bit with some Scotch-Brite, rub on it, dried it off, and then I just used whatever came out of the rosin that was in the solder.
Liquid flux works real well. Quite often, if I'm swiping stuff off, like cleaning stuff off with solder paste, with solder wick, I'll dip that into some liquid flux so that you get an awful lot of it. And it's amazing how fast stuff will get sucked into the solder.
I've heard that before, Dwayne, and there's the odd guy that has mentioned that to me, and I don't have any of the liquid flux here. I should probably just go pick some up. I should pick it up from the local guy here, help him keep in business. But yeah, I think that would be a really good idea.
Actually, well, I've got some of the stuff I've got ones where I actually made up some liquid flux along with, I ordered something from China, and one of the other things they had there was little blocks of solid rosin.
I have one of those.
Go and scrape some of that off, mix it in some alcohol, dissolve it in some alcohol, and you've got flux.
Oh, really? Huh. Yeah, because I got it off of eBay, like I say, like years ago. It came with the Chinese writing still on it. But yeah, this stuff here.
Yeah, just take a little bit of that, scrape it off like there, mix it with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, and you've got flux.
I never knew. Boy, the things you learn, eh?
Yeah, I mix that up, if you use solder paste, one of the things people always say, it's got an expiration date. It gets old. What happens is the flux dries out. So you just go and take some of the solder paste, put it in something you can mix it up, add a little bit of liquid flux to it, and get it down to the consistency you want it.
I was reading a while back, the shelf life of solder paste for the home brewer is much, much longer than the manufacturer. And that's because when it starts to, well, as you were saying, drying out a little bit, it can't get through the nozzles that the manufacturing process is using. But the home brewer isn't doing that.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing.
Take a little small spoonful of that, add a few drops of liquid rosin to it, mix it back up. And
as a matter of fact, this article is saying what you should do is go up to the manufacturers that use this stuff and see if they have any stuff that's gone out of date, and maybe you can get it for nothing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
there's too much of the stuff like that for the person that using the stuff at home, it's a whole different world.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, do you use what, ferric chloride, or do you use one of the acid etching solutions?
No, I use ferric chloride.
I've used it. It was always messy.
Yeah, I've been lucky. I have read. I think you and I might have talked about this before about using a different chemical and stuff like that, and it seems to work well. And I think a few of the guys that are around here that are etching their own boards, I think I'm the only guy that's using ferric chloride. They're using I can't remember what they're using now.
Yeah, I mean, basically you use muriatic acid and hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah.
And go to the Home Depot, buy a gallon of muriatic acid for $8 and a bottle of hydrogen peroxide. And if you don't want to go and use that, there are certain types of, I've used certain types of, acid-based toilet bowl cleaner, a little bit of that, and with the hydrogen peroxide, and it works real well.
It's probably cheaper than the ferric chloride. I was just looking on the bottle there to see if the price tag was still on it, but actually I'm getting quite low. So I'll probably have to make that decision before long. But,
yeah, I mean, and I mean, the thing, but that's that you mix up just what you need. Take a couple of, like 2-3 ounce, mix up the solution, so I got like, an ounce of the acid, a couple ounces of the hydrogen peroxide. It's enough for, like a normal size, small, 3x3 inch board like there, 1/4 inch deep. That's all you need.
Very true. Yeah. Well, we just might end up doing that. Like I say, I'm getting now down to the bottom of the barrel there, so it's going to be time to do something different. So this might be time to switch out. And,
I mean, it's a pain. You always had to order that. Radio Shack used to have the stuff, but there's none of those around or local places like that to pick it up. I can go to Home Depot and do someplace like there, pick up the muriatic acid for $8 a gallon or whatever it is, and
well, that's a lot cheaper than ferric.
89 cents for a liter, $1 for a liter of hydrogen peroxide. Or actually, I usually go to a beauty supply shop, and you can get like normally the hydrogen peroxide you get at regular drugstores and stuff like that is about a 3% solution. But if you go to like a beauty supply store and get that they call a developer, it's like a 12% hydrogen peroxide, and it'll etch a board in a minute.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So that's what you should be going as the 12% type.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind, Dwayne. Thank you. I think I'm convinced this time.
I mean, there's so much easy stuff that you can do. Like for all this, making boards at SMD, the solder mask, making the SMD templates and stuff like that. Check YouTube for those. There's tons of videos on all these things.
Oh yeah, you can get lost for hours on YouTube. Pretty much everything is all SMD for me now. Except for prototype. Well, even prototyping, sometimes I'll even quickly etch a board up and do that. But this, the op-amp stuff, I've been using the through hole on an actual breadboard and playing around with that way.
Yeah, I mean, for most things, it's so much easier with surface mount.
I found
no holes and stuff. I hated drilling holes. That was the worst thing to do it. I've got this little CNC engraver mill that, I tried engraving it. It's a pain and stuff like that. So what I usually used was just use it to drill the holes, then took the toner transfer, put it on top of the pre-drilled boards.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And that works real well.
I mean, a lot of the guys, I'm surprised at how many of the guys that are in both these clubs. Dave OOI, who he'll do SMD for sure. And there's maybe a couple other guys at most, but the vast majority of the guys in down in Peel and here in Kingston as well are all through hole. They seem to be afraid to go to the SMD, and I keep saying it's easy. It's
so much easier than through hole.
It's easier than through hole. You don't have to, and that's another reason why I did that video there, just to show the guys. See, well, you can tackle that pretty easy, and you don't need sharp eyesight.
Yeah, I mean, what do you use for? Let's see if I can find where I've got these. Oh, if this is the right box here. Yeah, I got a pair of these, the inexpensive dental magnifiers.
Oh, yes.
They are absolutely perfect. These are like 3.5. I mean, the little cheap magnifiers that you put on your glasses and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get real close to whatever you're working on.
Yeah.
In order to get in focus. These got a focal length of about 450 millimeters.
Okay. I like those what you're showing there, because I was at the dentist there a couple of years ago, and he put these big contraptions on, and I said, boy, I said, you got any broken ones? Because I'd love to, where'd you get yours? Although the ones he's using are way more than I would want to pay.
Yeah, these are off of eBay, and they're like $25 to $30.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that possibly going that, because right now all I do is I'm fortunate. That's why I've never had laser surgery for my eyes, because I can take my glasses off and I can, I can get this close, like that's in focus.
Yeah,
so I can get right in there. Now I have found lately, occasionally I'll take those. I don't know where they are, but the ones you described that you clip on your glasses, I have on occasion used those, and I also have the lighted magnifying lamp, but I use that for inspection. I don't use them to actually do the work on. But I'm thinking more and more, and for years I've been thinking about like a nice big webcam that would focus in nicely, and then solder the fine work like that. But
yeah, these are the thing I like about these. These are really nice because they got a decent working lane. A foot and a half away. You're not right down there with solder smoke coming. The smoke from the soldering iron coming in right into your face. You can actually see what you want.
Well, years ago, I went to a electronic trade show, and there was one of the things that impressed me there was they had this setup, a soldering station. And instead of having to look through a microscope kind of setup with two eyepieces, it was like a hood thing that you got, like a virtual reality.
Yeah.
You put your head in there and you were looking at, a screen. I guess a fancy camera that was projecting onto a screen.
Yeah. And
I tell you, that was beautiful. It was a cat's ass. And I always had this in the back of my mind, find the right camcorder or lens or something like that I could set up, and then have it on a larger screen and then solder that way. But
yeah, those work fine. Like I say, the things like that work fine for inspection. You really need something stereo that's right down where you're looking at, where you're working at, because otherwise you can't look up and look at something like there, and then you're trying to align your hands, like their hand-eye coordination just doesn't work that well.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. I know one of the guys here in town he works at the hospital, and he's responsible for all the electronic equipment that the hospitals use. And he managed to get a couple of old stereo microscope things, and he gave me one to try out, but I didn't like looking through. It was just the field of range just wasn't there. It was just
that's why I like these things here. I mean, first anything like that I saw. I mean, I spent close to 30 years, more than 25 years as a field service rep working on medical electronics, and a lot of my customers were surgeons, neurosurgeons, and I got a chance to see some of their fancy headsets like this, but they were hundreds of dollars, and now these things are down for I've seen them for under $20 on eBay and Amazon.
Yeah. I think the time is I think I'll probably do like you. I'll pick one up there. The only thing I had one dentist where I picked up. I said to him one day, "What do you do with all of your old dental pick things that do they wear out?" And he says, "Oh yeah." He says, "I sharpen them." I said, "Well, what do you do when they go beyond that?" He said, "I just toss them in a drawer." So I said, "Can I have some?" And he said, "Well, what do you want to use it for?" So I told him what I did, wanted them for, and he said, "Well, I'll tell you what, you can go over to the drawer, take whatever you want, as long as you promise me you won't use them on yourself." And I said to him, "I don't like you picking away at my teeth. I doubt I'm going to do it to myself." But you know what? They're such high quality. They feel so good in your hand.
Oh yeah.
I bought some cheap ones one day because I wanted to have a couple more. I can't really use them because they feel.
Oh yeah.
They're no good. But these ones, I tell you, they feel really nice. Anyway.
Yeah, but the thing is about any of the medical dental stuff like that, you get the real stuff. They come with the real price.
Yeah, and I just happen to have a dentist that liked how I sold them on giving me some. I don't have to convince the dentist I have now to give me his headset for his lights.
Yeah.
But anyway. Okay, Dwayne, I'm going to head out.
Yeah, I'm going to see once if that rum I made has aged any in the last 48 hours.
I bet it has.
Yeah,
Okay.
see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that'll be great. See you again.
Yeah,
Cheers.
bye.
Bye-bye.